Good day.
Hi. Wow, Randy.
Feel oddly out of place.
It's a little different.
If you said that again. And no meeting
We're
the
gonna
chairs
party.
back.
We're gonna party over on this side of the table tonight.
Get the chair down. Okay, go ahead and get this show started. I'll call the meeting to order. And we'll stand and recite the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Kim Harrison Edwards here, Councilwoman Sherry Rogers here, Councilman Randy Bowen,
I'm waiting for her so she can get her here in.
Councilwoman Debbie Gump here,
See?
Councilman Herb Curtis, City Manager Nate Stansberry,
Present.
City Attorney Brian Bailey,
Here.
Finance Director Susan Johnston here, Interim Chief Mike Posey, Chief Jimmy Settle, Building Code Zoning Enforcement Marty Lewis, Street Commissioner Mike Starrett,
Here.
Sanitary Director Dee Evans.
Hey, do we have any public comment? New business, the reason we're here, review and confirm updates to city code. And I assume that we're gonna let our city attorney lay out what he has.
And I think I'll give a general overview of what this is about and what I envision this to be going forward over the next, I'm guessing it'll be 3 months of meetings, depending on how many pages per night you want to get. As you know, there was a desire to have American legal get all of our ordinances and old code and whatnot together into a new comprehensive type document that's not 50 years old. And this is what we have. And on various pages, I have poured through and made some various comments and given you all copies of that. And most of them are general housekeeping type things, changing some wordings or changing some letters or whatnot. But I think tonight we're going to see if we get through 30 pages of it to see see how we feel with each other, or whether we're ready to rip each other's throats out, or what we're going to do with it. And to be sure, the charter is in existence. This is not a time or an event where we're changing the charter. We have to change the charter. There's a different process that we're not doing right now. So for everybody listening and for everybody in the room, this is not a change to our charter. And I think what you'll find in some of this, particularly, well, most of it, a lot of it has some lasting vestiges from our prior type of city government. We had something akin to a strong mayor government 20 years ago, and it got changed to city manager form of government, and we had new mayor manager form of government. Sorry, Mayor, I always mess that one up.
That's okay.
And words like city treasurer, that got changed to finance manager. So you'll see a lot of that kind of language just needs updated, for lack of a better way to say it. Otherwise, you all are the policymakers. If you have read or see something that needs changed or whatnot, we can speak up and try to address that. But most of this stuff is kind of looking for typos, pointing out stuff that might be inconsistent with state law that needs updated or changed or whatnot. I envision this, we just kind of, I hate to say learn as we go, but we just kind of deal with it as we go through page by page. And some pages have a lot on them and some pages don't have very much. I guess we'll just get started.
Can I speak just a little bit more to the breadth, I guess, of the code process before we jump in? I mean, I think we're trying to like Brian said in the email, there's certain sections like zoning and things that we're not gonna make part of this review, because there's no need to, and there's special ways of amending those sections that this isn't privy to. But at the very end of this, I think what we're gonna try to do is have at least 3 to make sure our bases are covered, because that requires any kind of revenue generating ordinance to be read 3 times. So just to cover our bases, we'll probably read it 3 times.
Is there a hearing required too? Public hearing or just 3 readings?
I think we're essentially, the way I understand it, a code is just an ordinance that we're passing, where it codifies,
Okay.
we're amending the Weston City Code via ordinance. And so I think the hearing is the fact that we're having the ordinance readings, right? Those are the hearings.
Okay.
And, I think once we get closer to the end, it may behoove us to have a public hearing or something like that, or to schedule a public meeting to let people come and ask questions and put this on our website and let people see it, see the changes we're making. But like Brian said, there's a lot of old vestige language. There was a lot of American legal taking our interpretations of things and changing things, and we're like, oh shoot, that's not really what we meant. So we're gonna straighten that stuff out as we go. So just bear with it all. It's a lot, but yeah, that's kind of the process we're working toward. I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. Sorry, Brian.
And this is the time to pound the table and hash out anything any troubles you have with any of the language or misunderstandings or misapprehensions or whatever about what all we're looking for. I'm not going to be a bit offended if you say, hey, Brian, what do you mean by this? Or, oh my gosh, this is not what we want. This is here for you all to conglomerate around and figure out what might work or might not work, or needs added or taken out, or what.
A lot of the stuff doesn't work or doesn't fit our current processes, and so I think that you're going to run into that a lot through this, where you're like, what do we? It doesn't make any sense with what we're doing right now. So, and I think that we had that debate internally and spoke with the mayor a lot about it. It's like, do we pass the code as is and then straighten those things out afterwards, or do we have these meetings and try to get it as good as we can before we pass it? I think that's where we've fallen. That's where we're at. So,
and American League was indicated that every year they're going to do an update. Any changes we make or any additions we want to do every year, they'll plop that down into what our code is. So we're not necessarily chained to what changes we make to this thing, because we can always change them again when the year goes.
I have a question. On our copies, whose notes are in red?
Mine.
Okay. No, I prefer a red pen when calling attention to something, because that way I'm apt to miss something in black.
And what I intend to do is the red, I think officially up here on the board, up here on the screen, we have a Word copy of what we're looking at. So any changes you all want to make, we're just going to type it into that Word copy, print it out, hand it to the city clerk. City clerk's going to do something to safekeep it and say, these are the changes that we all agreed to. And then when the time rolls around to put them all together, like, we're going to have changes from this meeting, and then we're going to have changes from the next meeting. And eventually, we're going to have a thick book of all the changes that we made, and we're going to read it as an ordinance.
Well, the current officials, do we need to list the other department heads with that as well? The police chief, the fire
Well,
chief, the code enforcement?
I think that's ultimately up to you all. The charter indicates the mayor, the 4 council members, and city attorney, city manager,
I
city.
just was wondering.
But that's up to you. I don't-
Might be all inclusive.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's go.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to put everybody.
One other note I guess I want to make is that Brian and I had this discussion today, and we were just talking, I said, you want me to do the typing and say, so you can do the talking, that kind of thing. And ultimately, I think my input here is just from an administrative standpoint, right? I think that this at its ultimate level it's a policy thing, right? This is the legislative portion of our government. And so I don't really think it's my role necessarily to dictate to you all, so don't ever feel that the city manager is shaking his finger at you, telling you this is how it is. You have the ultimate authority here to decide this policy, and this is your ballyhoo, for lack of a better word there. And so I see my role in this is when you're going through this saying, oh, how, if you see something that this doesn't really work, you tell it, you're gonna possibly ask me for my advice and say, how does this work currently? And I'll give it, but I'm not really here to tell you what to do. And I guess if you feel at any time that I'm butting in that discussion, feel free to point it out and say, no, I think this is what we need to do, and that's what we're gonna do, okay? I don't have any issues with that. That's how I'm viewing this, okay?
I guess we can start. Y'all want to put fire chief and police chief and whatnot with the city officials?
Something else is gonna change often, and it'll have to be changed in the book.
See, well, looking at this, I don't think this is going to change, like the list of current officials, I don't think it's going to change, because we're going to slap this into the nice leather bound book, and you open it up and say, who was the officials when this stuff was passed? And you're going to look back and say, oh, is that no good Brian Bailey? He was a city attorney back then. 20 years from now, I don't know if it's going to matter who we put down on this list, but it's not, I don't see it intending to be changed from year to year, or from council to council. I see it as, this is who the city representatives were when all this stuff
At the time,
was passed at the time.
I don't see anything wrong with taking Debbie's suggestion and including. I would like to have his name taken out.
So parallel references, that's your next.
So we're changing the chief. Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
Fire chief. Who else said?
I think it's more or less
Department heads. You know, from your roll call sheet.
Okay.
Would make it easy, wouldn't it? Table of contents, page. Necessary, what are you asking us?
Just when you look through the code and you pull up, I'm making something up here, rule 15-12, and it says all stoplights shall be red. You say, where the hell they come up, where the crap they come up with that? And you look back, oh, ordinance 22-5 of 1952. It just gives you kind of a roadmap of where this idea came from. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily required. You can sit here and make up any rule you want to. And that rule starts today. If that makes sense.
So you could just.
I mean, I think you can leave it in without any problem, but that was just a note. It wasn't necessarily me saying take it out. It was just. There are references to code and prior code and ordinances.
I think when you're operating the code with the code, it's helpful to have it on there.
The and then we start the charter,
We're gonna
right?
start the charter, and we're not touching that.
Okay. Where are we going?
And now we're in Title II, page. You gotta turn 5, 6, or 8 pages. And you'll get to a page called Title II, General Provisions.
Well, you have more Title I general.
Or, I'm sorry, Title I. Not that.
We had some questions on the charter.
There's just general, if we'd ever have to redo the charter, look at the charter, those are something that popped in my head when I reviewed it. As far as making any official changes today. I have advice you might have.
It's always been my thought that it did need updated, but then we talked about it and we agreed to work on getting the ordinance updated, and then
Right.
after that point to review the charter. Right?
We're doing title I.
It's like you're not doing it right.
Oh. And I'm with you now. I was going over that part. I like that too.
We're at Title I, General Provisions.
Yeah.
Right.
With a number 1 at the bottom of the page.
This is 3.
Yeah, well, the text that we're starting.
And there, on that page 3 has a little, every page has a red check mark in the top right corner I've reviewed. Of course, we're not down. That's me here or there for this conversation. I've reviewed all these things. When we turn to page, I guess it'd be page 4. And there in the definitions, charter, city charter, there was some confusion with American legal as to what charter we operate. The charter from, I forget what year it was, but it was instituted in our 1972 code. And then this charter that was passed in 2002, which indicates language to the effect of Weston City Charter now strikes everything in the prior charter from beginning to end, for lack of a better way to say it, and replaces it with what's in the 2002 charter. And so for clarity, I suggest we add 2002 between the words "the" and "charter" in that charter definition.
2003.
I'm sorry.
What it looks
I
like.
looked at it again today and we got the wrong number. It's 2002.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2002.
I'm so confused at this
Sure.
point about what type of government we have, but you've got in here manager dash mayor plan, and I know that it's really important that you get the right.
Yeah.
Way
Yeah,
in there,
and
and I
plan
don't think
fi-
that's right.
I think that there's a plan 4, which is a manager plan. And there's a plan 5, which is a manager, mayor, or mayor manager plan, either way you want to do it. And the manager plan has the mayor be elected amongst, like all the council members get voted in. And then all those council members elect the mayor from everybody who got voted in as council. Now, the one we do is the manager mayor plan, where you have a mayor elected at large, and then the 4 council members elected.
But I think mayor needs to be stated first,
First.
because otherwise it gets convoluted, and there's another form that's recognized by the municipal league, and it's different.
So what needs to be there?
We are playing,
Should just follow what
Plan
the
5.
municipal league says, because that's how they designate us.
Right.
And I know what you're talking about. I've seen it.
and I'm going to push back on that a little bit. State code calls it the manager mayor.
I think we refer to here, Brian. So I think it's referring to plan 5, manager, mayor. There shall be a council of not less than 5, more than 7 or 11 members elected either at large or from such geographical district as may be established by the charter. Then there shall be a mayor elected at large by qualified voters of the municipality as may be established by the charter.
If that's the way it needs to be, I'm fine with that, but I guess Randy has seen it too, that it's stated differently. There is that at the municipal league, but then there's another. And I don't know
I meant
why
to be
that is.
confusing.
It is.
But yeah, there's a major difference in the way that the hierarchy and the chain of command and everything is. One's called a mayor, city manager, and the other one's called city manager, mayor. But I've only seen that in the municipal league manual. I haven't looked.
And
The
not
check
that I
rate.
really care, but I think we need to
Future.
follow.
I think
what-
that's
Follow,
absolutely.
figure out which one we're supposed to follow.
Yeah,
absolutely-
that's right.
I think you're absolutely right with that. I'm looking at state law and I see the 5 different plans, and the one that matches us the most is what they're calling manager mayor. I don't know what municipal league is calling it.
Can we
But
just
we-
circle that and
yeah.
check?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Get on it, dude. Can you pull it up, please?
Where is that written at? Do you know, Ken? Within the municipal league? Where you see
Should be
that?
right near the front of it.
Originally, when I looked at the municipal league website, it had a listing of all the cities and it told you what type of plan they had. And that's why it really confused me, but I looked for that and I can't find it now.
Okay.
I might just be looking in the wrong spot.
It's got headings in that municipal manual. Bold, italicized headings for all those different forms. I was looking for crevices.
As long as it's not affecting the mayor upon your boss.
That was absent in your classroom.
I said, as long as you don't affect people in your boss.
Cardin's as bad as absent in Debbie's class.
That's right.
And, all right, they're under the, in context with what they're in conjunction with what the mayor just brought up. The city manager or mayor, that definition. Before we became a city manager form of government, the mayor herself was the chief administrator of the city, was in charge of the police, was overseeing the fire department, all that stuff. Those duties in a manager type plan, those duties have been extracted from the mayor and put on the city manager. Now, going back to these old vestiges from ordinances long ago, they use the word mayor. Now, what does mayor mean? Well, back then it meant the chief administrator of the city. Nowadays, city manager is the chief administrator of the city. And so that's what this definition, that's why I have this definition with a little highlight on it, is to try to, I'm trying to go through every page and figure out where it says mayor and see if that is a job, administrative job that would be city manager instead of mayor. And if we miss some of those, then that's what this definition is to cover, is to try to delineate the lines between what the mayor's role is and what the city manager's role is. Particularly with our history of having a mayor for 100 years, everybody getting used to this concept that the mayor is the in charge of this, of the administration side of this. And whatever our plan is, it's locked
That
in.
looks
That the
pretty good to me.
Okay. I don't know if we can necessarily, we can word it however we want to, but we can't take, without some act of the state legislature, we can't take the city manager role and make it not the administrative head of the city, for lack of a better way to say it.
Is everybody good with that?
I'm fine with you.
We're leaving it as is.
Brian did a pretty good job. This is the definition of the state code. It says mayor shall mean the individual called mayor unless as to particular municipality, a commissioner or the city manager and mayor form of government is designated or constituted by charter provision as principal or chief executive officer or chief administrator thereof, which term the mayor shall mean to as to such municipality, such commissioner or city manager unless as to any particular.
What was that
accountability.
third word?
Yeah. But I mean, that's, it just goes back and forth about, yeah, that's the definition from state code. It's hard to make any sense of what's going on
I
there.
boiled it down to the best sentence I can. Mayor means city manager unless charter or ordinance employs mayor to exercise a particular power. As far as administrating the city goes, I don't think the mayor is the control, is the chief officer of the council. City manager is not. City manager can't come in here and boss you all around like the mayor. City manager can't pound the gavel.
Uh-oh, you just lost your authority.
Back then, I- Yeah. She's not listening anyway.
Okay. Moving on.
Down there, finance manager, again, this was something I had American Legal add in.
Yeah.
If we catch treasurer or city treasurer or whatnot, it just
Right.
means finance manager.
Does Susie have to be neutered?
Yes.
I'm not against her will.
Are they gonna put, did they mean neutral?
That's what I thought. I circled it.
Only the second page.
We should talk about cats today.
It'd have to be the waiver sign.
We can add
Neutral
Neutral
sounds
to it.
better. Neutral.
Like neither.
Yeah.
All right, so, and there's a little star by sidewalk, because we use the term sidewalk, and I think we generally mean it's the little 4 foot wide piece of concrete we walk on, but it's not, it's from curb to property line, anything that's in between that is sidewalk.
The double strip is
Even
included.
that- even that's side. Street, I just highlight that because it touches on that concept of what the sidewalk is. No changes necessary to that.
So where you underline shall be construed to include a sidewalk or footpath, that's,
That was just to bring attention to
okay.
what was in that definition. It's not, there's nothing to change.
There's some sections later on where it says, you know, you've got to get permission to do any kind of digging within the street. And so that street is not just the street with paving, right? That's the street with sidewalk and green strip and stuff like that. So that's, I think, why you're bringing attention to that at this point.
You said you had to have approval first,
There's some regulations in here, yeah,
because
because
there's gonna be a conflict there between that and the residents being responsible for their portion of sidewalk. If they gotta ask for permission, they're responsible as it reads now versus the city being responsible, them being responsible.
And I don't disagree with it. Can we burn that bridge when we get to it?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
thought I'd bring
it's
it
gonna be a
up.
whole night's worth of discussion when we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're on the right path, Herb.
That's right. I forget why I put a star by section 10.03. And I think the general concept is when we pass this on April 1 or whatever,
Yeah.
everything that's happened before is still, we're not forgiving everything that's happened before. Those crimes or those fees or those whatevers that have happened under the previous code have carried through. You know, you don't get out of jail free card because we're just passing it. Okay. Section 1006 penalty. I think penalty is the right word there.
Yes.
That was the one that needs to change there.
Under B, 7. It shall be the duty of the city attorney to defend city officers and employees against all claims. The bottom of page 7.
Okay.
B,
Page 7.
up at the top.
In the top, numbers in the top right.
Oh,
Do we need something to say that, you
Did
know?
you see it?
that
I've just seen it.
we
They had
can see
the check mark right over it.
outside?
I mean, I
Do we
think
need to add that?
adding doesn't bother me a bit. I think the concept of defending a city officer, city attorneys, when they don't have, or attorneys, when they don't have the knowledge or the skill or whatever, they're ethically bound to try to go seek help
Okay,
and stuff like that. Now, if you want to put that in writing, I don't think that's going to offend anybody. Certainly not going to
where
offend
are
me.
we? At the bottom.
Let me catch you up.
Any penalties?
I guess it's because if you're not
Now, back under-
experienced in personnel law,
Back under,
you certainly would want someone to defend you who has that type of
page
experience
4,
and track
general
record.
provision,
But
charter, city
he
charter,
says that attorneys are legally
Yeah.
bound if they
I
don't
don't have
have
the charter
the
stuff.
In the-
knowledge,
in the definition.
get you
Scroll
the
up.
knowledge that
Stop.
you need to make sure that.
Between the words.
So if you're okay with
The
it
and charter,
being the
put
way that it
2002.
is, we'll move on.
Oh, here's the thing. Look at that, the way I'm understanding.
Go down to the
What
word
if you had
gender.
an employee who
Neutral, right?
was See, when you get to the city, then you would be in conflict. He is supposed to. And also, we have an HR attorney. We decided that before we hired a city attorney. Because they specialize in HR. issues. So I could see where he would be fit in a tough spot.
Sorry, I missed the first couple minutes.
What if somebody did bring a suit against the city of Weston? That's you too.
You mean as a,
As an employee,
yes, I would agree with that.
That
So
would be
how
a-
could you?
I don't know. I mean, generally speaking, I think you all would say, oh my gosh, a lawsuit came through our door. We better get Smith and Jones to get us an attorney to defend us in this. And I think that would be the same concept, whether I was working here as an employee, or whether no attorney was working here. The city attorney, my role, I think, is kind of help us guide to a point where we're not going to have these legal problems pop up.
I read that section B from an administration standpoint is, you know, let's say we have a police officer out there, and you know, some kind of legal thing pops up from what his actions. I think it's the duty of the city attorney to be his representative for that action as an employee, right? And that may blow up into where we need to have Johnny Cochran in here defending our employee who gets some kind of lawsuit, right? But I think it's his duty at first to make sure that, you know, he's not gonna sit there and say, well, I'm working for council, and that's it, right? It's his duty, or his or her duty, to make sure everyone is protected in a sense, right? And represent the entire city, essentially all its employees, officers are.
Should it be the duty of the city attorney to guide and or defend? Would that way, some council coming in wouldn't feel like, oh, we have to use the city attorney, and how do we do that? It would give you the option.
Very powerful words.
Yeah.
I think it would help.
And I think if attorneys that ask for help from other attorneys all the time, you get referrals. I don't know how to do a car wreck case. I'm gonna call Johnny Cochran to do a car wreck case. And it's no sin. It's not even uncommon for attorneys to farm, we call farm out cases to somebody else if we don't know how to do them, we don't want to do them. for lack of a better way to say it.
and that would allow you to like do so.
If that's what you all wanted, I mean, I think. if you all-
I think so, and the insurance company may be strong in wanting a representative that they
Sure.
choose.
Absolutely.
But we change it.
After city attorney, after the word two, senator two, guide. And or.
Yeah. Take some heat off of you, too.
I've been in a place in Fort Scott, there's an adversarial relationship between the city attorney and the council. They weren't courageous enough to fire his butt because they didn't like him. But they could constantly work around him, right? And that was my biggest concern when I read this, right? Is that if you kind of make this provision to seek outside counsel whenever you want to, you can neuter, use that word. The city attorney's role, right, where you've appointed him to be your chief legal officer, right? And I think that no matter whatever consultation you have with outside legal counsel, that person needs to be in there unless it's a workplace dispute, right? Or with the city attorney.
Yeah.
involved. So,
Well, in no way, shape, or form were my comments.
No,
You're trying to predict what we're gonna do, but also council's
Future
25
council.
council.
All right, so section 1099, we're going to come across our good friend here, or other amounts deemed appropriate by the municipal court. Now, when American Legal first looked at this, they pointed out a bunch of different places in the code that had like fines or numbers or something. And they suggested, put something in, they asked my opinion, is that something we want to add in language like, okay, or could be something the municipal court could decide as far as a fine goes, or some monetary amount. And just out of abundance of caution, I said, yeah, put it in after every number or after every fine or whatever. And now actually reading through it, we're going to see this pop up a bunch, and 99% of it is needing to just get wiped out, because it's kind of like when you commit a crime, you're sentenced. A judge just can't throw grass up in the air and say, oh, you get 20 years. State code and what they call sentencing guidelines direct that judge to what penalties he can give somebody. And counsel here is directing a penalty of $100 fine or imprisonment not exceeding 30 days. And when you put or any other amount deemed appropriate by the municipal court, that's a pretty broad category, pretty broad way of giving the court power to fine this guy $1 million or $10 million, or whatever acts the judge has to grind on somebody or something. So I'm highly suggesting taking out the or other amount deemed appropriate by the municipal.
Wait a minute, you suggest what?
Taking it out, just removing the language,
Oh,
or other amount deemed appropriate by the municipal.
What if it seems like to me it is a broad range, but what if it's a second offense, or we get outside of the language that's covered?
Some of these offenses do have penalties for first offense, second offense, third offense.
Mhm.
Now, if you get one that doesn't have that, I guess we're just gonna have to revert back to this general penalty. A lot of these things that don't have a specific penalty to them,
Mhm.
the language says, oh, and by the way, if there's no penalty declared in this section, please see section 10.99 for the penalty.
So there'll still be a penalty.
So there'll still be a penalty of this $100. Now, if you keep violating over and over and over again, you're just gonna keep coming back to this $100 penalty,
can we
this
put,
general penalty.
can we put otherwise stated? Or something in the code, like if that, whatever code they broke is $300, then you go by that code.
I think that's what's gonna be in one of these, here in a few weeks, when we get to some of the stuff that has the actual penalties in it, you're gonna see something like, and I'm making something up again, section 15-12. And anybody who breaks 15-12, you get penalties under 15-99. And so you turn to 15-99 and it gives you first offense $100, second offense $200, third offense
But when
$500.
I'm
You don't get reverted back.
but-
You don't get reverted back.
Okay, so this is just for being, because
This is a catch-all. This is a catch-all for when we don't.
That's why I say, could you put or otherwise stated after that? It's $100 and that's otherwise stated in the code. Never mind.
No, I
You know
get
what I'm
it.
saying?
No, yeah,
I do.
trying to think this through for a second.
I think
When you
she's-
go to 1099, I think that means it's not stated elsewhere in the code. I mean, no, I'm sorry, it's not what I said. When you go to 1099, if you're not in 1099, it's been stated in the code what your penalty is. Once you get bumped down to 1099, there's no, see, I don't know what,
There's no tried and true
There's-
rule for imposing a certain dollar amount of penalty. So you're just establishing one for any of those offenses
any
that
diff-
fall outside
yes,
of an established fine schedule.
yes.
That's what I think they was trying to get at with the language that's currently in there now. As far as, I'm not saying it's right.
Right.
I mean, we'd go a different direction like you're saying, but I see what they're doing.
And I don't think this is, this is, I would say, a very smart catch-all.
Yeah.
If you're
Right,
passing an ordinance and you forget to put a fine schedule or whatever,
Okay,
you get the general penalty.
Because a municipal judge is a little leverage to say, well, we've done it 2 times, so now we just add it, multiplied by 2, $100 would be $300.
But I don't think that's what, I don't think this general penalty allows that. I think once, every time you come through the door, you get $100 every time. Now, I think you can add some kind of language that says first offense, 100, second offense, 200, third offense, whatever. Whatever.
Well, why don't we want to leave in or any other amount deemed appropriate by the municipal court? Because they are the ones that get the information and they know if it's a first offense or second.
And I think
What's the danger?
the danger in that is the intent of counsel. Well, the intent of counsel is giving the court a very broad brush to paint with, very broad grant of power. If this judges, they're all not necessarily in any particular situation, but they're biased just like everybody else. They try hard to keep it out of the court. But when you get a guy in here that's $100 and you haven't fixed his problem, and he comes back into the same problem, the judge gets mad and says, "I got now it's $10,000." That's a pretty big jump from $100 to $10,000. And the only thing I can cite to, or the only thing on my mind right now, is the in criminal cases sentencing guidelines. The Congress, the state legislatures have gotten together, or Congress has gotten together and said, this is how we want our judges to penalize people. And if we wanted to make 10,000, if we want to punish them $10,000 for a second offense, then by golly, we better write it down in our federal laws and make that the rule. If you wanted to give the judges carte blanche, then I think you say any amount the judge sees fit.
Could the council just say not, or other amount deemed appropriate by the municipal court not to exceed a certain number?
I think you could do that. That gives them
Kind of gives the community or a little bit of protection. That's what I
Say, we're gonna give the judge 10 lashes, so you give him as many lashes you feel is necessary, but don't you exceed 10, And I think that's what do you think people could tolerate?
Right.
If you don't clean up your property, is that a $10,000 offense, or is that how many of you spoken to in here and defined, but I think.
Well, because at some point you destroy your penalty. I mean, if you go from $100 to 10,000, they could never pay it. It just lays there and it's.
Legitimacy is lost.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have the vacant building ordinance, which caps off at 5,000. So do we want to make the cap off at 5,000?
She's hard.
Make sure I paid all my bills this year.
I think most of this stuff is like, you didn't pick up the goal. So, I don't know. There's no wrong, I hate to say it, there's no wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of how much leeway you want to give the
Here's
judge.
question. What's the most we've seen come out, be fined by Judge Trent? What's the most we've seen him fined?
When I was in municipal courts, the only thing I ever seen was try to work it out with them. Yeah, and that you can ask Susie, that's what I got. Yeah, try to work it out with them. And then if we work it out with them, we bring all this money in here, Susie, me, and everybody else in here, we got nothing for our time in here. And, city's time to pay.
Art chapter 15 says, a person convicted of a crime declared as general penalty jurisdiction under article. So 15-1F-9. So wants to write that down so you can check my math. So the 15-1F-9 says a person convicted of a crime declared by this article to be a misdemeanor shall otherwise be provided to be punished by a fine of not more than $500 or by imprisonment in the county jail for not more than 1 year or by both.
1 year.
Yeah.
I'd rather pay $5,000 1 year.
And a lot of these,
Maybe you just view it that way and reflect that.
and a lot of the ordinances that deal with like punishment, they'll have a schedule, something to the effect of $100 for the first one, $300 for your second one, $500 for the third one. It really doesn't get much above $500.
So do we want to put
Yeah,
not to
but-
exceed $500? Sounds good, baby.
$0 off.
Not to exceed $500 though.
Well, you have to get rid of that fine not exceeding $100.
How should I write that? Tell me.
Fine. Not exceeding $500, I think.
That covers it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Time out.
And then we'll get rid of the other or other.
Yeah, we're getting rid of or other amount deemed appropriate by municipal. All right, now we're on. We're on to chapter 30. Policies on the- And every chapter, like it's broken up into title, chapter, and section.
Right.
Now we're still in, or I'm sorry, we're in title 3, chapter 30.
Right.
And so each chapter, the page number started.
Okay.
So we're on bottom, middle, page 3 here. There's just a couple places there, treasurer needs to be changed to finance.
Right.
Yeah.
30.04. And 30.06, put city before finance manager. All right, next page, page 4. This official bonds. First thing, our good friend over Mountain Dean appropriate by municipal court. I don't think that's the municipal court's role. Pick the bond.
No,
that each
I agree.
person's Supposed to.
And I'm unclear about that because when we took office, we did not have to post bond. And we were told that
I think the charter,
that we were included under the city's bond.
yes.
We looked at it one day too, right?
Yes.
We've been on, with our insurance, we just renewed it for.
And charter, it uses language such as shall require from those council made by ordinance defined duties, blah, 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 blah. Or from all those who receive funds or assets or property, such bonds as they, the council, deem necessary or proper to ensure faithful performance of duties. So the charter doesn't necessarily require a bond. You know, if you as council have a judgment to decide if somebody's trustworthy, they're gonna have to make them pay a bond. For control of city funds. But if we have insurance.
We bonded everybody.
So then we bond cash.
Well, if it protects the employees, then we should. Right?
I think that's what, isn't that what? You say we bonded it, we bonded every employee through.
We've listed everybody that handles cash, like, I think it's $100,000, right, Susie? We,
Something like that.
Yeah.
At Ramsey's.
yeah, it wasn't something we went out and just bought a policy on your guys' behalf. It was something that came to us that was being renewed, and so we updated it with the appropriate officers and people's names. And then upon their consultation, they said, yeah, you should, you know, have a policy with $100,000 for people who handle money, so we just went ahead and did that. And that bonds you for, they steal that amount of property, right, you can get that like that.
But elected officials are bonded as well.
That I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they were listed on there, but they weren't, you guys weren't as much because you didn't receive any funds.
Well, it says property too, doesn't it? No,
Pardon?
Take care of
It was tough when we did it.
Take care of them, Kim.
I mean, I'm still on the letter. That's okay, right here.
That's not-
What do other cities require for a bond amount?
Oh, they told us. Remember, Nate?
I don't.
Yeah, they told us how much each person should be bonded for.
Well, in here it says finance manager 15,000, city clerk 15,000.
Ours was more than that, wasn't it?
I think we're at 100. If I remember
Yeah.
correctly. For the people who accepted payments. That's where we bumped them up quite considerably. So I think that was like 15, this is from 1972.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
You know, so we thought it would be a little more hefty.
So what's council bond?
I don't have-
Do you recall?
The 15,000 sounds like the right number to me, but.
But then the extra. What?
I'm not connected to the S drive. That's the answer I gave to everybody here. They're like, where is this? I'm like, what about the S drive? It's our server where all the files are.
I mean, I think we take out the or other amount deemed appropriate by municipal court language.
Mhm.
And then there's a reference to the city treasurer about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through paragraph A. It needs changed. to finances.
So we're covered that, because this says that we're supposed to be bonded. So we're covered.
We're bond, I mean, we're bonded for not less than 15,000. Right.
And that in 2019, we had city clerk was 95,000, mayor was 45,000, administrative assistant was 45,000, and city manager was 45,000. That was in 2019. But
It doesn't make sense. You should be your custody of negotiable instruments.
No, but this says. that it's supposed to be-
and I can get that changed.
Not picking them, I'm just saying, in case something would happen, to that may have to accept money at some point, and something would happen.
There was an original bond that covered city employees at $5,000 each, and the riders were added to increase certain positions with an additional amount. I overlooked another page that shows the city manager, that's the one I read for to you just a second ago, is included with an additional 45,000. It is attached as per conversation. The financial director position is not covered. I've attached the application for you to complete so I can submit to the company. So that's, I want to put Susie on there. So I think everybody else had $5,000 each under a general blanket bond, but looking at this, we may need to, let's see,
And I think the clerk and the treasurer have to be not less than 15.
which they are more.
Okay.
So maybe I got one right there.
Can
So,
you adjust that too?
I think we can say whatever we want to.
You want to change the 15,000? What are we adjusting?
Well, you're getting rid of all the underline,
Yeah.
the deemed appropriate by municipal court. That's 4 of those in that first paragraph.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant adjust the numbers for the.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you need to adjust the numbers for the finance manager and the city clerk. It looks to me like city manager should be listed in that paragraph. shouldn't it?
Yeah, that's in language, yeah. This was like 14,000. What numbers are we looking for?
Did you say 45, Nate?
So I'm trying to So you go all that email, so you can have it for your. all the attachments. Originally, there was $5,000 in 86. What is it there? Let's see, Weston, City of Weston Riders. City clerk had $95,000. Mayor had $45,000. Administrative assistant had 45,000. City manager was 45. So we just want to say, and I think Susie, you were higher. I think if I remember right.
And then it goes on to see the or the police officers have to be bonded as well. Are they bonded?
Well, hourly employees are at $5,000.
Okay, here it says they have to be no less than 10,000.
Probably need to increase them.
It's the next page.
Oh,
It's down to say that Congressman may adopt a system of blanket pay for performance.
Did we decide what to change the finance manager to? Instead of 15, are we bumping that up?
I thought it was 45, wasn't it?
The treasurer was actually, it was 95, the clerk was 95. Because they were both handling, and that was on top of the 5 they already had that made them a total of 100,000 that they're bonded for. I'm 45, I guess with another 5 makes me 50. And that was the same for the mayor. And then, because I honestly think the city manager needs to get out of this money handling business. That needs to expand it, finance. But
Well, it's gonna happen though.
yeah, yeah. So I think we meet all the requirements with the existing language. I mean, if we want to make it more stringent on ourselves, we can here. This is our opportunity. But we're meeting that. Now, Debbie brought up that point, right? So B says the common council may adopt a system of blanket faithful performance and honesty bonding as an alternative to the individual bonds provided in Division A above. Yeah.
Let's see, going to see.
Yeah, right. And I'm just following along here, right? So I think we've met B though as well, right?
Mhm.
But then C, you're talking about police, yeah. So then,
Before we get to C, we're leaving A as it is.
Well, do you even need A since the city's providing B?
I think A can remain there as
Could
a
be reference A is saying that I think in those, the ones you listed there cannot be
less.
less.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, there's a, like, everybody can have the 5,000, but those listed in A cannot. Okay.
I think it can remain. It's just this is your, if you feel like you need to upgrade it because that's 15,000 as a minimum isn't enough, we can do that here. We're already but way above that at this point in time.
What do you offer? What do you think? Everything's a better number assessment for future generations.
Right now, we've got 100,000. If we want to do that, we could just stick that in there and leave it there, make that our requirement. Does that seem like, I don't have any experience with bonds. Is that too much or?
I don't know. What's the financial?
It's a good number.
By the time you catch them, you're in the 6 figures.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, damn.
100.
Take your time.
Yeah.
You always gotta start with me sign checks. You don't know what? You gotta let me start signing checks.
We have the
Take
city
my
manager,
name off of
we're
it.
at the city manager into that too.
In order for me to take the money. No.
We need to get rid of this right here, right? Okay.
Have it in the bond.
City manager. Yeah. Susie, we're going down together.
That was last year. This year.
Yeah, let's see.
Strike or other amount deemed appropriate. The city attorney shall approve all bonds required by this section.
I've never seen bond come across my desk.
You weren't here then.
We did it for you.
Well, it says common council shall approve all bonds required with respect to their sufficiency. So,
There you go.
I'm sorry, I apologize. We didn't do that when we got those bonds in. We just, they sent us some notice that their bonds are expiring. What do you want to do? And we
That's
renewed them.
okay.
Are we increasing the police?
Debbie,
I'm
do
sorry.
you want to,
Increase the bond for the police?
If that was 1972, it probably should go up a little bit.
what did you?
I don't know, I
do
just saw,
that?
and the reason I noticed, he said everybody else had 5,000 besides the treasurer and the
Mhm.
clerk. And that's why I questioned
Yeah.
it, because here it says you have to have at least 10,000. You know, and I don't know.
Do you know what you're carrying for police officers?
I don't.
Us, I think they're not specified specifically, so I think they're that $5,000 amount.
Yeah.
So I think we need to add them to
That's
our
what I'm saying.
bond
According to
after
this.
reading this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not what's brought it up.
But if you want a different number, now's the time to tell me before I go and sign them up.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't see any. You wanna leave
So
it
do
where
bare
it is?
minimum,
I say
10,000,
I would
just
go
bring
ahead
it
and sleep it
current.
here because,
Okay.
you're really just bonding them for their.
Let Brian and I look into that a little bit.
bonds,
I'll
equipment.
talk to him about it. 'Cause I
Okay.
think that, it speaks to firearms. I don't know if that was, protect you if you're in a wrongful suit or something from just shooting somebody the wrong way or something or what, but. Yeah, payment of any judgment decree which may be rendered against them for the negligent or unlawful use of handling of such firearm to save the city harmless from all claims advanced. So I guess if they use their firearm wrong, we can call the bond on them and recover that cost.
Well, then you better buy more than 10,000.
Yeah, that's what I wonder if that's the purpose of it.
If I'm hearing you right.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, his ear is still stopped up, I can't. But yeah, I would think more than 10,000.
highlight that yellow because we're gonna come back to that at some point in the future. Render a decision.
That sounds good.
All right.
30, section 30.02. Looking over it again today. We didn't know whether to list all the city officers and employees or not. That list could change anytime you add somebody or take away
Right.
somebody. I think the concept, other city officers and employees is enough to encompass all the, everybody who works. here.
Yeah.
Um, 30.04, again, treasurer to finance manager there in the heading. Second sentence, city treasurer to city finance. Thirty oh five. I reviewed this before our last council meeting where we had the issue of the gentleman with the tire. Seek recovery for that. I'm indifferent. I think we have a city court. You could maybe bring something like this too. I'm not, I think you have city court for a reason. Y'all are council. It's whatever you all want to.
I think it should be the court. Because,
the claims just tie up council meetings and ultimately it may end up in court anyway.
How would you take this to court? What would be our process? These claims, right? We had a gentleman come in here and pop his tire.
I mean, I think you can go to magistrate court and say, hey.
He's gonna sue us?
City owes me something for the car tire.
Would he not have to go to municipal court?
Not necessarily. I think he could go where, they call it a court of competent jurisdiction. He could choose which one to go to, I guess.
So when somebody comes in here and pops their tire and wants to make claim against, we're gonna tell them to take us to magistrate court.
I think we try to generally settle it with the insurance or whatnot, if the insurance wants to do that. But if they want to pay us, if he says it's $100 and they pop my tire and the court says, all right, pay $100.
Yeah, I see where you're
Yeah,
going.
I'm not trying to be mean.
No, I see where you're going with this.
I thought it worked pretty well last meeting.
And it might be fine. I don't.
We haven't had a whole lot of them here. We've had, I think, 3 since I've been here.
There's no sin in keeping it in there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say yeah or nay one way or the
It's
other.
up to you guys.
I don't think anything in there prevents them from going to magistrate court now, right?
Nothing at all.
They don't like our decision making.
It just seemed to me a council meeting, there was no evidence presented, there was nothing other than somebody saying, hey, you owe me.
That's what a claim is, right? I mean, and we asked him to provide all those things, but what do you? Yeah, I think he gave us all that we could, right? We had our reasons for not doing it.
We have what, 2 tickets? Or 2 places, I mean.
Yeah,
2
the-
different. They were $10,000.
Okay.
but I think
What
that's,
do
you know,
you guys think?
it's your guys' judgment at the end of the day to make him come back or deny it or whatever you wanted to do, right?
You want to leave it the way that
Keep
it
it in
is?
there.
Keep it-
I think so.
It's fine.
Debbie, Randy, any thoughts? Leave it?
3006, again, we're changing treasurer to finance manager in that word. I think this is just is it necessary? Maybe. This is just kind of a form, I guess, a template for the treasurer to pay money to somebody.
Well, can I speak to this a little bit? Because there's an old way of paying bills. Where the clerk made an order from every resolution of the council to pay every bill that came to the city. And I think that that's what this is a vestige of that. Where by resolution, you guys, we come to you every meeting and say, we've got 25 bills to pay. Do you approve our bills to be paid? And you say, yeah, you know, that's how small places and old ways
No,
things are
that
done.
commission does that.
Yep.
Yeah, they have to do that as a board of education too.
Right?
They do.
And I think that's a way of doing business, I guess, to be polite about it, but I'd say my opinion on this is leave it for now, because I think we're headed towards bringing you guys a finance policy that we can argue about, figure out how we want to make this thing work the best for us. As far as handling finances and paying bills and all that stuff.
We're not doing that now. But we are approving essentially the financial report, which includes the paying of the bills.
Yeah, I think in the old days, right, you didn't pay it till council said you could pay it. And that's not how we're operating now, to be on the up and up side, right? We're just paying the bills as they come through, as long as you guys have approved it over that threshold of, you know,
We
what,
approve the budget.
right, and like, you know, I can't spend anything over $5,000 without getting your approval. Now, to be honest, like, you know, I get a street light bill, I pay that street light bill, whether it's $5,700 or $4,999.
Purchases.
Purchases, right, and I think those are the kind of things that really aren't spoken to, that may be real clear about this, that we've got to get kind of ironed out at some point down the line.
Well, we need to do what works. That's what we need to do.
I would
From,
highly suggest the most efficient way and the most safe way, let's find that and do it.
So you guys are gonna be bringing a finance policy for review?
Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah.
Good.
I kind of spell this stuff out. So, like I said, I don't think that there's no harm in leaving things like this almost as placeholders in a sense, is my feeling on it, right? And you know that we go back and cut that vestige organ out at some point, replace it.
Yeah.
You good with that, Brian?
And at some point, you might want to replace it with a policy that's been approved for this.
Right, and that's what we're trying to do. I think we've got to write that policy and figure out a way how to insert it into the code to make it make sense, right? Speak, you referenced it before.
There's another city treasurer. Up there with these changes. $30.07. Again, we're taking out. Or other amount deemed appropriate. I mean, it's just what we think that's a cool issue. I think this is going back to day-to-day transaction type stuff there. I have the language, a majority of the members of common council in a square with the language insert city manager question. The routine transaction, that to me sounds like day-to-day administration, which is housed under the concept of city manager. Instead of having to come to council every day to get approval for a routine.
Why don't you word it that way?
I guess we're good.
Make it real plain.
I hear what you said, but unless each such transaction, other than that of a routine nature, be first approved by the city manager. Is that what?
Well, this
I'm
is saying unusual.
Yeah, that's,
This isn't
I
saying
misread it.
routine.
I don't think this is the day-to-day workings. This is, I don't know, something I'm buying a street sweeper. Isn't that what this is saying? For example. Equipment purchases, things, large expenditures, things that you're not gonna do every month, you know. That's what I'm understanding.
Okay, and now we're back into that $5,000 umbrella that you've given the city manager
Sure.
to operate under, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
For a transaction over $5,000.
I'm gonna beg to differ. I think this is speaking like, if somebody steps out of the procedure, right, and they decide they're gonna buy $500 of pure hand to give to the employees as a department head, they're saying that you're personally responsible for that. If you're over $100, am I reading that right there? But you're covered as long as you follow the proper requisitioning procedures. So if somebody comes to me and says, I want to buy $500 of hand to give out the employees, my job is tell them, no, you can't do that, right? And this is saying that if they do that without anyways, then they're gonna be responsible for that cost over $100. I think I'm reading that right.
It's so unclear.
Yeah.
Why can't we make something simpler and clearer to read?
I think it goes back to our financial policy. We're trying to tie all that stuff in together with that. Because now state code has bumped up their bidded values that don't match these anymore and all that other stuff, so.
It's highlighted and
Come back
come
to it.
back to it whenever we have. And maybe Ben will be able to use some wording from the policy too,
Okay.
the financial policy. That whole thing is a quagmire.
I kind of think, where it says here in this section, where it says, unless such transactions conform to such requisition procedures prescribed from time to time by resolution of common council. I think we put a statement in there to the effect of, procurement supplies, all employees and officers shall adhere to the policy, procurement of supply service and the like policy set by council from time to time. And otherwise they shall be responsible for personally for those costs, something simple like that. And when we make our policy, we've got it, but work on it language.
Right, 30.08,
17, Brian, just saying that.
we can quit whenever council is.
We're doing good.
Got to get to page 30.
We
Um,
do?
We don't have to, because as
Okay.
long as y'all want to go. That $5,000 number. State code cites that when you do a construction type project, you have to do competitive bidding if that project's going $25,000.
That's state code.
Yeah.
So,
And so that 5,000, I think is, if you want to change that to 25,000, I think that's a relatively safe number.
okay.
You getting 3 bids on this, Mr. Bailey, or is that just leave it the way it is? Just
Competitive bidding, that would be whatever the competitive bidding process is through state code. I guess you get however many bids you get.
I thought we were supposed to at least three.
At least three.
That's what I thought.
But if you can't get 3, you can't get 3.
Can you use the?
Now, let me split hairs here for a second. Are we talking like we're gonna go out and buy a snow shovel? We gotta go get 3, we gotta go to Walmart and get a price, we gotta go to Target and get a price, we gotta go to Sam's Club and get a price.
I think it's when you just come under that one thing that's under.
I think it's after a certain amount. not
Yeah.
Yeah.
the snow
Right.
shovels, but the
I
It
think
says every contract. What's a contract? I mean, you go over
I
to
think you
the
hand $1 to somebody for a can of pop, that's contract.
or purchase order to buy 5 bolts, that's contract.
Yeah, but this is about like, this mirrors what you're saying earlier about you getting to spend money, having that threshold or that limit. If you put like when your department head saying they gotta get bids on buying soda or something else.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gotta be some common sense and you gotta find the place where it's feasible.
When I first got here, we didn't have any rules for it, right? So I said, let me know when you're over 250, give me a call and I'll talk to you about it, right? I don't want to know about you buying pencils,
Right.
I don't want to know that kind of stuff. So I think we've got to find a way. There's some state law that talks about when you have to get 3 or more quotes, because
Sure is.
there's thresholds there. And I think my suggestion is figure out from an administrative standpoint, when you guys want to know about it, when you want to say, hey, city manager, come talk to us to make sure you're not spending too much money. But then also let's mirror that state law for whenever they go with quotes or go competitive bidding and things. That's my suggestion. And then if you don't, especially if you don't even put the thresholds of what those numbers are, right, necessarily in there. It's reflect the state code at this time or whatever, and shall increase as the state code increases or something like that, right? So you don't have to sit there. I think in 1983, when we passed that ordinance down here, I think this was probably the number of state code had is $5,000. We just haven't updated our procurement since 1983
I think McKinley told me his went up to 10,000.
that he could spend with that
He can go up to 10,000 without having him to go through his chain of
chain of
command.
command.
That was just last week.
The cost of everything rise,
Yeah,
but you gotta walk with that.
I,
to a certain degree.
from what we're doing, I really don't have a whole lot of problems with the $5,000 threshold right now. Now, it's kind of a council preference thing. If you guys want to know about $5,000 purchases, so our bills have been tight in the past, right? $5,000 is a lot of money to Weston.
And
So,
it may become that again. you
right,
never
right.
know.
And so I think that's
And Nate Stansberry may not always be the
That's
city
right.
manager. I can think of the day in the past where thankfully we did look at those expenditures that were 5,000-ish.
Yep.
Gaming computers. That kind of thing.
Little research, that's all.
So, we may get to the point where a gallon of gas costs $5,000. Hopefully not, right? But maybe just at that point. But
Leave it at 5.
I think for the time being, I mean, we can highlight that yellow too, come back to that. But again, I think when we write this financial policy, we're trying to include all these things in there that and this is up for debate, but when I approached Joe with the suggestion of doing this policy, my thought was, let's set an ordinance in the code that the council is gonna approve a financial policy, right? And that there's authority there, that there's gonna be a policy that's gonna be kept on record in the city clerk's office, that this is the city's financial policy, and that policy can be updated from time to time by resolution of council, kind of like our employee handbook, right? And I think at that point, we set this framework and the policy, and as we need to make changes down the road, we don't have to go in here and change the code. We bring it to you and say, let's update the policy, and that'll be in the clerk's office.
Do we need to add that will abide by the state's policy on purchasing somewhere in there and find out exactly what that reads?
Let's see what the policy is first.
We're trying to get the vault cleaned up upstairs so she can keep all these records in the vault.
All right, page 8.
Is there stuff in there?
We got it open now.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Old knives, and
Oh,
contraband.
I'm gonna see what it
That
is.
is cool.
Stuff like that.
Page 8, this would be an easy one. We're gonna change city treasurer to finance manager. And strike out the other amount you referred to.
Sounds good.
On the bees, I guess.
So you gotta change. Section 3013. The city clerk is the keeper of records for the city, and there's kind of a possibly it's not so much a conflict, there's just kind of a overlap. City clerk is in charge of the records of the city, and
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. We need to change, because I think this is now 90 days. Highlight that. So we're supposed to, just for your knowledge, at the end of the fiscal year, we've got to print a financial statement in the newspaper 90 days after fiscal year ends, detailing that. I think that's, is there even a state tax commissioner anymore? Or is that the state auditor?
State auditor's office, I
Is
thought.
the tax commissioner?
I don't know.
That needs to be updated as well, because I know, I just looked at that today. It's not
Okay.
4 weeks, it's not 90 days. We're still working on our statement, so we haven't published ours yet, so we can work it along. But
sorry, that's what we're here for.
The keeper of the documents, can that not just be the city clerk?
I think it can. I think she would have the power to say who can take what out. But there's also we also have an ordinance for FOIA requests. I think the ordinance indicates that the city manager is the keeper of records as far as a FOIA request goes.
That is, he is responsible for that.
And so I don't see, and I'm not trying to be mean to council, what your all's role is in letting somebody take or not take a particular record out of it. You're not here every day, you know what I mean? I think you take out mayor and common council. And make the city clerk the A1 person and the city manager the second person in charge of deciding when and what documents can be taken out or what, you know what I mean?
I think maybe you should keep the mayor, because what if we are back at the time where she is also acting city, or, we didn't have a city manager. and
Right.
Maybe Judy's not here, who's
Yeah.
going to be able to give that information?
I think you
I'm
need,
fine.
I think you need a broad term to cover outside of this administration. Going forward.
I'm looking, I didn't hear the first about 4 or 5 words you said.
Going outside of this administration, I think you need the language to cover going outside of this administration.
Yeah.
Just from experience past
And
that may have come again.
And
at some
I don't think
point.
there's anything wrong with putting anybody you all want at that meeting. I mean, but the charter says clerk is in charge of the records. And so that's kind of who I think is the first line of whatever. And if you don't, and if we all fall off the planet tomorrow, and you don't have a city manager and a city clerk, I think you gotta get one pretty dang on quick.
No, I was just saying
Yeah.
that Judy went at work that day.
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know, That's what I was saying. Not that she wasn't here.
Do we need to change anything?
I would take out the common council. But I think we're gonna get into a battle
You
between the
could,
3 people who, I mean, I think,
not with this council,
Right.
but in the future, you very well could. And I think that may have occurred. in
But that's, I kind
history.
of wonder, about the mayor. The city manager and the city clerk, right, we're beholden to the so the mayor comes in and says, I want to see this person's tax records. Like, you really shouldn't be seeing that, that kind of thing, you put yourself in a peculiar spot, but at the end of the day, you've been elected by the people who run the government, I think.
I think we put by
The less people that can walk out here with the records, the better.
Yeah,
I'd say put a hierarchy of city clerk, city manager, and then mayor.
Let's kind of takes, right now, when we sign checks, the clerk signs it and the mayor signs it by a charter. Can we just put mayor and clerk? They can kind of serve as a check on themselves. That makes sense?
No,
No?
to
Okay.
me, the clerk is the keep a journal of proceedings, ordinance, acts, orders, blah, 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 and have charge of and preserve the records of the city. Charge and preserve to me encompasses how you're, I think that's what the city clerk does, is in charge of records.
yeah.
And to get to have any more people with their finger in the cookie jar, just graze up the area unless you put some kind of language. City clerk shall be the one. If the city clerk is unavailable, then whoever's next. And if that person's not available, whoever's next.
And or city manager, I think the two. As you spoke, I'm sorry, Judy, as you spoke up earlier, Brian, makes sense to me. That you have at least one backup, and you don't have all your eggs in one basket, which would be the city manager. They're the two that works in the building, and as you said, if you lost them both at one time, you'd have to get them back pretty quick, so.
We'll put city clerk, first city clerk, second city manager, third mayor.
Is that what everybody wants? Okay. Is that supposed to be their DUCES?
Yeah, deuces subpoena. That's-
I don't know that
Yeah,
word.
that's some kind of subpoena you get from, it's a bunch of Latin.
Okay. That's what it was.
We're just leaving these.
Except by the, I think we changed it to except by the authority of first the city man, first the authority of, except by authority of city clerk.
Does anyone need to
If
take
the
a
city
break?
comma, if the city clerk is unavailable,
Yeah.
the city manager.
Yeah, well, next week.
It depends on how involved the rest of us is, because some of it's looking to me
And
really
motion.
involved.
Comma, and if those two are not
It
available.
does, these next few pages look to be.
That.
You just don't really-
Sure. Just feels like it's hard with the.
We need hardwood. We need it.
3017, just out of abundance of caution, I added for subsequent sections of West Virginia code that becomes available.
I had a real question about all of this that has to do with benefits and employees. It just seemed to me like those issues are addressed in the employee handbook. Should they be here to go?
I don't know. When you codify it, it's law. When it's in a personnel manual, it's not necessarily what I call hard and fast law. It's,
Well, it could be changed.
Yeah.
Recommended for change by the city manager and whatever employee he deems to help.
Let's leave it, because I wonder if we had to enact that in order to be a part of the system or something like that. Does that make sense?
All right.
or subsequent. Section.
Subsequent. I don't know, I'll get.
Just the E there.
Yeah.
There's an X in there.
Either I'm having a stroke of this keyboard now, we're good. Section, West Virginia State
West
Code.
Virginia. Add the subsequent. And U. SCUB, SC.
We'll say, use that on it. We can hold it against you.
There, that looks good.
That's a little embarrassing, but.
Do the same
Let's get
thing,
that red pen out.
do the same thing in 30.
Copy her
Copy
and paste.
and 3019, again, we're back to this concept of the city manager being the chief administrator of the city, and employees or whatnot going to training or schools or whatnot. Give the city manager the 30 days notice, not necessarily council the 30 days notice. Now, to me, that's a me wanting to go attend the school or get some kind of. When I say school, I don't know if they literally mean like I go to diesel school to learn how to do diesel mechanics or whatnot. I read school to mean something like continued education, training type things.
Yeah. That
But
titling
might,
is misleading.
Which will require financial participation.
I don't even know what that means.
Means the city has to
Pay
pay.
for
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I think that council should approve that.
Yeah, we go back to this whole strong mayor. Previous, they didn't give the mayor the authority to do that, they want authority then, so I think it's fine to stay with the common council.
Okay.
Now, if somebody's going to, one thing, you know,
It's
you go to CDL school in night hours, and we're paying
Sure.
for it, that's something the council needs to necessarily approve, it's $250 for the cost, right?
Yeah.
If that's something we wanna junk up the system with, right?
Or somebody just decides that they're gonna go to SHRM and some other type of.
Yeah, like we've got an employee right now who goes in the evenings, of course, we're not paying with it with city funds, right, but he's going to Fred Everly to work on electrical stuff. And I think with it, if I wasn't reading that, I would have said, hey, if I'm paying for it, if it doesn't cost $5,000, go ahead and do it. I would have given approval to go ahead and do it. To me, it makes sense, right? But it's up to you all.
We're looking into the future.
Yeah,
That's the whole deal. That's what makes it so difficult.
Page 11.
We're gonna leave that stuff, right?
In 3019, I'll change it.
I don't like any of that stuff in there again, street department, employees defined and and sick leave and sick and vacation.
I think all that is in our handbook.
That's how I feel about it. I don't see why we need it here.
See, and see if we're gonna leave it.
Those 3 or 4 pages we can move past them.
But I think we need to speak to an employee handbook in our code somewhere, don't we? So we need to have one and need to be on file and things of that nature.
Yeah, you know, if you wanna list the headings like sick leave and vacation leave, employee classifications defined, and then mention that they can be found in the employee handbook.
Approved by council, by resolution of council, and kept on record at the city clerk's office.
Wow.
I think we put up a statement like that, Brian.
Yeah, and
Is that
you've
in the
got
section?
all these other employees, sick leave, vacation leave. Retrieval and production fees, I guess you might wanna,
That's the FOIA stuff.
okay.
I think section A, I was looking at it a little deeper today. State code indicates that you can charge whatever, a reasonable fee for like paper or ink or whatever you use to print out a document. To charge somebody, like if somebody was to go spend 2 hours digging up all this stuff, you can't charge the manpower hours for finding those documents. And section A here, I think says, hey, we're gonna charge you for our manpower hours that we're using to find these documents. So I think A has to be taken out.
That section's been used to the demise of citizens for years. Yeah.
So that's my thought on A. It's totally inconsistent with state code.
Get it out of there.
Then we'll make B A.
That would make us almost some level of federal government if we left that in there. And we don't want to do that.
Those are fight words in some parts.
We wouldn't want to do that.
Again, under,
So in the existing B on our paper.
Yeah.
We need to take out the or other amount deemed by
Yeah.
appropriate by municipal court.
and if you want to change that $1 amount, you can.
Well,
I think $1 is fine.
Suzie, what do you think? Dollar be fine? Yeah.
That's not spoken by FOIA law itself.
They use the term reasonable,
Okay.
reasonable fee.
I think it's $1 per page at the courthouse, like if you have to renew your license and you have to have all of your past history. Like your driver's license.
I think it's fine. Yeah. I just, I
I
thought,
think
yeah,
it-
Vermont, I think they made you do a certain number.
The 3027. I don't know what NIM says.
Yeah,
Do we,
It says-
do we,
If it says national or federal, I didn't vote for it.
I haven't run across that in the year and a half or two I've been here.
in the Emergency Planning Commission, they do.
Yeah, I think it's there.
And there's a thing where you can go and get certification. It's an online thing.
I'd say it's probably a FEMA requirement, right? To be able to
Yeah.
access FEMA.
But we've established that.
Yes.
It's ordinance 43/2006.
So I think we need to change it. Unless you're saying, yeah, we
No highlight yellow, so you can confirm that.
Time and place of meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Can I go back one, please?
Oh, yeah.
30.20,
30, which one?
30.20. Mine says C, but I think you might have made it to B, right?
30.20. B.
B, and where it says street commissioner and the mayor. After 3 days, we need to bring this to the mayor.
We're gonna refer to the handbook for all that.
Take all that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone.
Keep right on track.
All right, time and place of meetings, quorum. I think section A needs to stay, we need to change 8 PM to 6 PM. And then,
And not at the
Not a-
council chamber.
Where are we now?
Section 30.4.
Page 14.
So I thought I had it.
Now, there's a couple things that 8 PM needs changed to 6 PM. So I think that's what we need at the council chamber. I don't even know what we have for the council chamber, but we're
Well,
going at a location determined by council.
yes, perfect.
Well, we could consider the commission road council member.
We could, I guess. I don't like to do it that way because it's mission chamber. I mean, I don't
Okay,
know.
I understand.
Gives you some flexibility where you're not.
In case you have to meet at the fire department.
Right, you wanna
for
meet
some
somewhere
reason.
else for your regular meeting? Yeah.
And then there, at the end, the last little blurb, the council may fix another day for such a meeting. I think the charter says, specifically says if you can't meet on the first Monday because of a holiday or whatnot, you have to meet the next day. So we're kind of locked in to take, I think we take out, may fix another day for such meeting. And replace it with shall meet the next day per charter.
Sure. Sounds good.
Excellent change, council.
Tell you what. That was easy.
So what are we saying there, sir?
The 8 PM goes to 6 PM.
Gotcha.
Right, and then from this council part, from May to meeting, strike. And add. Shall meet the next day per charter. Section 19.
Do we follow B2?
No. And I think you can delete B totally. All this is encompassed under state code for how you're supposed to get notice
Right,
to
right.
have meetings. But unless you all, I mean,
I'm good
your
with that.
council, if you all don't want to have a meeting, by golly, you don't have to have it.
I'm good with that.
I'll just read it for
Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have to- if you don't want a special meeting, you don't have to have a special. meeting. All right,
So what are we doing here, sir?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Deleting.
30.40, section B. The way things operate now is, I think you all can say, hey, let's have a special meeting. Or city manager, city clerk, or whoever can say, hey, I think we need to have a meeting, let's schedule it. Now, the way 30.40 reads is special meetings have to be called by the mayor and 3 other council members instead of just the mayor or somebody on council saying, hey, let's have a meeting.
That doesn't work for day-to-day operations because we don't know
Get it out of there.
when y'all need a meeting.
If you don't leave it in there, what if you had a different city manager? And what if there were personnel issues and the mayor or the council members wanted to have a special meeting to discuss? Then,
I'm following you along.
yeah,
I think we're still, when we have mayor language here, this is still the strong mayor form of government, so I think that needs to be city manager. So like, if the administration, we need a meeting, I'm gonna call it, right? I'm gonna say, we need to have a special meeting, we're gonna try to organize it. But in your case, being the mayor now, you're still one of the 3 members of council, right? So I think you guys need to have a meeting, you're part of that 3 that call a special meeting. Does that make sense? You follow me?
yeah,
that-
because the city manager may not want to have that
Right,
meeting.
exactly.
I
This is
understand.
kind of the Robert C. Byrd
Yeah.
rules of parliamentary, right? I
Yeah.
can delay action by not calling a meeting or whatever, right?
Right,
So I think that was probably intended that day, right? That
That's
the mayor
what
calls the
I'm
meeting
thinking.
or council itself says, no, we need to take the mayor to task, so we need to call our own meeting and get that mayor, drag him in here, give it to him. I'm gonna put this city manager or is that fine right there?
Special meetings, the common council may be called by the
City
city
manager
manager.
or any 3 members. So the mayor, you'd be part of the council, they're calling the special meeting.
Keep it separate.
How's that? Sure.
okay.
Or any 3 members of council thereof.
Oh, we're talking about common council. I think it's fine.
two is gone.
We posted the items out on the board.
All that needs to be said.
Okay.
So do what's,
Just leave B1, take out B2 and B3.
we want to put a blurb in there, just to say that we've got to follow the open meeting laws.
Yep.
Under all circumstances, under all.
We're striking all this, right?
And then add in B2 or C, whichever way you want to do it.
Law or statute or what laws? How's that? I'll start that.
Just all meetings shot here in West Virginia. Now, under the charter references, composition of common council, I think you add number 3 right here.
There?
Yeah, 4. Put 3 and
3 and 4.
4. 3 and 4. Ineligibility of office. Ineligibility of officers, take out 18 and put 14. Oath of officers, take out 17 and add 4. That's probably not on there also.
With the officers.
I looked at those today to cross-reference in the chart. I don't think.
What does that say of officers? Is it just the council officers or?
4.
Did you guys have to take an oath up at the county when you came in there? I think every employee is
Every
supposed
employee is supposed to.
yeah.
You want me to send you guys that?
Faithfully and impartially discharge duty of the office to support the Constitution of the United States and state of Michigan.
We don't do that. I think we need to speak to that somewhere.
You want me to send you one out?
Please.
Okay.
Every employee, I think, every employee we hire from now on, you gotta, or the rest of us need to sign the oath of office. So we-
There are only specific people who can do it, because, like, commission. Or the. So they either come to the commission meeting,
Right.
or they would come to the council meeting, or they could go to the.
City clerk.
Or the mayor, after the mayor has received the oath, because I did for one of the police officers.
Yes, yes. Or the mayor.
Then qualificate down one more, take out qualification, of mayor and council members, charter number 6, and put 5.
I don't know where you are.
30.40, we're under the charter references and statutory reference part.
Oh, the references part, okay.
All right. Procedure when meeting lacks quorum. I think you take out. I think this is just, this is the old, when you don't have a quorum, 2 people can sit there and say, we adjourn and move it to another date or time. I'm indifferent about that. I don't mean-
Why?
Because it's, I mean,
Well, you have to be able to do
when you
something.
don't, when you don't, I guess you Well,
Can't vote on it.
you can't vote on anything, you can't decide anything.
So do you even call the meeting to order? Just. to-
Well, I haven't been, like, when I've had a couple meetings in here that one didn't show up to, we just kind of said, okay, there's no form, we're leaving. And left. And then we work out the logistics of the next meeting
Right.
with everybody and get them sent back up for another time.
This is saying, if you show up, you know, say, Herb run late like he always is. And we
We
we say we're gonna recess. I just got
that.
You can recess temporarily, right? We can say, oh, we're gonna take, you know, we're gonna, the two of those can take official action, say, we're gonna give it 15 more minutes. Yeah, recess temporarily,
I'll let you know when it's at 30.
or adjourn to a subsequent time. Or to cause a start, I mean, this you can send the police chief, of police go track them down and say, hey, we're gonna have a meeting, you need to show up.
Oh, I want to do that next time.
I don't see anything wrong with just leaving it away.
In the charter reference, it's section 26. I don't think that needs taken out for section 20, or section 26 doesn't deal with
Okay.
this topic.
Okay.
Charter reference, charter reference, authority, that whole word like that. 30.43, there's a little blurb in there, it's charter section 21-A. That's not right. I think it needs to be 16.
Okay.
But Sherry,
What?
you're that person. The vice mayor.
Oh, thanks for.
30.45, this wasn't on your, this one's not on your document, on your copy, because I changed it today or added it today. The second sentence there, the first sentence, the city clerk shall attend all meetings, blah, 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 in a well-bound book. I propose we add something like, or other format as technology may allow. Maybe known as the journal.
And state regulation or whatever the regulations require,
State code.
needs requirements, and state requirements. I don't know how you say that.
And satisfies any state requirements for such recordings.
Okay.
Where do you want that at?
After the book. Right. Yeah. Any leather-bound book or other format. Or
I don't think we want war. You want them to give them the option where they don't have to keep it in the book anymore. It's your own safe way of keeping it from walking out of here.
Somebody.
What was your,
and other formats as technology may allow, which satisfies any state requirements of such records.
of state record?
Of such records.
You just felt satisfied there. I had to get you back.
I was waiting for me.
Charter references, they're under that, what we're just looking at. Duties of city clerk. We're looking at charter sections 21 and 23. That needs changed to 20. And the next one down, required entry base, section 18.
We don't follow this order of business.
Speak to that.
Where are we?
8:16. First petitions.
That's where I'm at.
I think that's what the.
Oh, okay. I
citizen
thought we were so-
representative-
Where's that reading? What number is that? Drew?
3046.
Section 30.46.
4-6 or 4-7.
46.
4-6.
we decided to move public comment to the beginning. What do you consider petitions?
To me, that would be public comment
Mhm.
because you're petitioning the government, your area.
So
That's how I'm interpreting.
I was
We're doing
thinking
that right.
declarations or proclamations, okay.
So we're following it, right?
No. Then we're doing reports of committees, then we're doing reports of officers. Then we're doing unfinished business, then we're doing new business, right? Can we have it in that order? Can we change it?
I think so. So we did change.
I'd like my order to be in that packet.
Well, first, petitions, can you do a slash public comment?
So that, would that include our proclamations and, okay,
Is that proclamation?
okay.
Proclamations and presentations, right? We did all that.
Yeah, and presentations.
Reports of boards slash commissions,
So we want to strike this, right? Second,
yeah.
and strike unfinished business. What we put in there, sir?
Reports of boards slash commissions. Next, third will be departmental reports.
Okay. Four. Was business, right? Business.
One that sleeps on my front porch.
Really?
And my time, it's sort of like.
There's a lot to it.
Fifth,
Fifth,
new
new
business.
Boy, good. That's the city. So, and pro-
Is there anywhere at all, and I've been looking, and I haven't seen it, that the meeting, the quorum will follow Robert's rules of order?
I haven't seen anything. That mentioned.
Is that a charter?
Nothing strikes out.
And then what, six, what we doing for six? Anything?
That's adjournment.
We have comments, council reports, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Minutes. And there's something about minutes.
Charter
That's
agency,
up above.
But that.
Oh, okay, that's number two, yeah. All right, 30.46, we need to change another charter citation.
Which one?
Charter 24 needs to turn, the 24 needs to be 18.
Done.
47. Mayor shall be entitled to vote on all questions. That's not necessarily what the charter says. The mayor is a tie breaking vote. Well, it doesn't. Let's see. The mayor shall also have the power to decide all tie votes of the common council. So
That's it.
does that mean you get to vote on all things?
No, only in case of a tie. That's how it's been. Should have been.
Mayor shall only vote. And so the mayor shall, after that, strike B entitled, strike everything all the way to the sentence. The city, I don't think, we don't say the city clerk is part of council in our charter. And the mayor shall only vote in case of a tie vote.
As a deciding vote.
This is 30.48. Strike there in the last little bit of it, says of the members be present. I don't like that B to be there. Just take out the B. That's next to last one.
This one here?
Take out and then strike the language.
Grammatically correct, unless the majority of the members present.
I like that. I like to take, I don't like the B there. It seems, I don't know, unnecessary.
Unless the majority of the members vote.
Unless the majority of the members present when the question is put and concur there. Unless a majority of the members be present. If you're present, you're there, whether you're be present or present. I don't know.
If you don't have three, which is a majority, then you aren't gonna be able to vote anyway.
That's fine. And this is a personal taste for me. That last part of that sentence, when the question is put and concur there. That's kind of archaic language to me. I said, my suggestion is vote yay for the issue. After the word present, I don't know. Either way, I think we'll be fine. Leave it.
Plan on going through all of this, or we stop at this?
We can stop whenever you want.
I just wonder, because I know Judy and Susie and Mike and Dee are tired, and you guys
Randy.
and Debbie.
And
I'll be the
her,
one
and
to
Sherry,
figure
and
We can
Kim.
stop whenever.
Randy's sick of it.
A couple hours, 2 hours is.
Yeah, it's 2 hours. Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. We do this however you all.
Right.
Can we
See
do
fit.
30.49 and stop at 30.50?
No.
Like that red man.
We stopped at, so we're gonna start at 30.49.
No, we're gonna do 30.
Oh, we're gonna do 30.49.
Yes, it's just real quick.
Uh, I read this as maybe something different. The city man appropriate, I guess, is different than spend. The council appropriates or declares where money is supposed to go. Maybe I read that as spend, which triggered me to think maybe this is a city manager type deal. City manager shall not appropriate or order the payment of any city money, either by check or cash for refund whatsoever, except in adherence to policy set by city council. I don't know if that's what 30.49 is getting at, or if it's the council can't just willy-nilly say, here's $10,000, go spend it. A majority of them have to agree to that.
I think you need to speak to your appropriate money at the budget, right? You can't spend any money unless it's been appropriated in your budget.
Yeah, and I think the common council is fine there.
Yeah,
Not appropriate. I think your changes are good. In adherence to policy set by city council. Think that's fine.
I don't understand because the common council shall not appropriate, we approve the budget. It's a conflict.
I'm trying to say that.
I think it's very confusing
you can't-
language that we can come up with better language.
You can't on your own just say, come in here and say, you're gonna write a check and pay for whatever.
Right. That's what your interpretation is on this.
No, I think they're saying that you can't pay bills outside of the regular meeting. That first part of that saying. Common council shall not appropriate or the payment of any city money given by check or cash from any fund whatsoever, except by approval of a majority of the members of council at a duly constituted meeting. Means that I can't call the council on the phone and say, hey, we need to spend this money. I've got to have a meeting. In the old days, I'd have a meeting to say, can we spend this money or not?
I was thinking as shall not appropriate within or from any vote within a meeting held.
Well, if none of us sitting around the table can figure out exactly what they meant, I think it needs rewritten.
Okay, yellow it.
Yes.
And let's go home.
agree. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, it's a long,
50
arduous.
pages of thing is maybe a little tough.
Couple hours, yeah.
I'll do my best judgment and look into the next one. We did 17 pages. And I thought it would be some stuff like that. We'll see. No. This is what, but this is part of the issue. Some of the stuff isn't very clear. It's hard to wade through. You get to the stuff in the next few chapters where it's like, you run a stop sign, you get $100 fine. That stuff's easy. You just change the $100 to $200 or $500 or $1,000 or whatever you want to do. This is harder. This is.
I need to adjourn. Is there a second?
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Started.
Debbie, I did not respond to you. I've been in South Carolina.
Oh, that's fine.
My cousin's in the
Oh,
hospital.
no,
So.
my aunt's been in the hospital, it's been on, reached the end on that, so.
Brian, could you please make a note to add the Robert's Rules of Order, just create a section? Newly revised.
I'm proud of it.
You are too.
Yeah, I know.